Who is Rockefeller, the world's most powerful man? Is it a real possibility, or just a figment of humanity's imagination? A mere urban legend? Is this rumor ultimately a good thing or a bad thing? Tonight, once again, we'll examine whether it's true or not from a Japanese perspective. Title: The Secrets of the Rockefeller Family, Oil, Power, and Conspiracy Theories 1. Introduction: America's most famous and most mysterious dynasty. We have explored ancient mummies, dream figures, moon landing conspiracies, and secret societies. Now, let us turn to a family that has been at the center of more conspiracy theories than almost any other in American history: the Rockefellers. Depending on who you ask, the Rockefellers are a philanthropic dynasty that built universities, hospitals, and museums, using their vast fortune for the public good. The ruthless architects of a global monopoly who crushed competitors and amassed unimaginable wealth through exploitation. The secret puppet masters behind the Federal Reserve, the Illuminati, and a New World Order, along with the Rothschilds. Or simply a family that rose from humble beginnings, made a fortune in oil, and has spent the last century trying to live down the dark side of that legacy. Which one is true? As with most powerful families, the answer is complicated. The Rockefellers have done immense good, and they have done real harm. They have been targets of wild conspiracy theories, and they have engaged in secretive, questionable behavior that fueled those theories. In this lecture, I will give you a balanced, evidence-based overview of the Rockefeller family, their real history, from John D. Rockefeller Sr. to the present day, how Standard Oil built and lost a monopoly, the family's turn to philanthropy, and the reasons behind it. The major conspiracy theories about the Rockefellers examined. The secret covenant hoax, where it came from and why it persists. The tragic disappearance of Michael Rockefeller, accident or cannibalism. The Rockefellers today fighting Exxon over climate change. And finally, what the Rockefeller story teaches us about wealth, power, and conspiracy. Let us begin at the beginning, with a man named William Avery Rockefeller. 2. Real history. The patriarch and the grifter father. The Rockefeller story does not begin with oil. It begins with a con man. William Avery Big Bill Rockefeller, 1810 to 1906. John D. Rockefeller Sr.'s father was not the respectable businessman that family legends once claimed. William Rockefeller was a traveling salesman who sold miracle cures, including a cancer remedy that was mostly petroleum. He called himself Dr. William Livingston and posed as a deaf-mute to gain sympathy while selling trinkets. He was also, by modern accounts, a bigamist, a horse thief, and a man who repeatedly fled from indictments. In 1849, he was indicted for raping a hired girl in Cayuga, New York, and was forced to flee again. He eventually abandoned his family, remarried under a false name, and died in 1906 in Freeport, Illinois, buried in an unmarked grave. Why this matters? John D. Rockefeller Sr. grew up knowing his father's secrets. Some historians believe this shaped his lifelong obsession with respectability, order, and privacy. He rarely spoke about his father. He kept his own life tightly controlled, and he passed down a culture of secrecy that would later fuel conspiracy theories. John D. Rockefeller Sr., 1839 to 1937, born in upstate New York to a struggling family. Young John D. moved to Cleveland, Ohio, as a teenager. He was a devout Baptist, a meticulous bookkeeper, and a driven businessman. He started in commodities trading and then discovered oil. In 1863, he built his first oil refinery. By 1870, he incorporated the Standard Oil Company. By 1882, Standard Oil controlled 95% of the nation's oil refining capacity. It was the first great American trust, and it made Rockefeller the world's first billionaire in 1916. How he did it, ruthless or just brilliant? Rockefeller used aggressive tactics. He bought out competitors, forced railroads to give him discounted shipping rates, and drove rivals out of business by temporarily lowering prices below cost. He created a monopoly, and monopolies were legal at the time, though unpopular. His defenders say he simply did what any smart businessman would do. His critics, including investigative journalist Ida Tarbell, whose father had been ruined by Standard Oil, called him a predator. The Sherman Antitrust Act, 1890, and the breakup, 1911. Public anger at monopolies led to the Sherman Antitrust Act. In 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil to break into 34 separate companies, including what would become Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and Amoco. Rockefeller owned shares in all of them, and the breakup actually made him richer because the individual companies became more valuable than the monopoly had been. By the time of his death in 1937, Rockefeller had given away more than $500 million. OVE are 500 million, over 10 billion in today's money. But he still died as one of the richest men in history. 3. The turn to philanthropy, guilt, or generosity. This is where the family's reputation shifts, and where conspiracy theories find fertile ground. John D. Rockefeller Sr.'s philanthropy. He began giving in the 1890s, long before his death. His major gifts included the University of Chicago, founded 1890, ultimately more than $80 million. The Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, 1901, now Rockefeller University. The General Education Board, 1902, promoting education across the South. The Rockefeller Foundation, 1913, global public health, science, and the arts. Why did he give so much? This is the central question. Some say he was genuinely pious, a Baptist who believed wealth was a trust from God. Others say he was trying to launder his reputation after decades of being vilified as a robber baron. Historian Ron Chernow, who wrote the definitive biography Titan, notes that Rockefeller was genuinely conflicted. He could be ruthlessly competitive in business, and then privately agonize over every dollar he gave away. Chernow argues that the silver lining to the whole story is that the family ended up feeling so anxious and so guilty about their wealth that they ended up being remarkably good philanthropists. John D. Rockefeller Jr., 1874 to 1960, the only son, was a different type of man. He was quieter, more religious, and deeply troubled by the family's public image. The Ludlow Massacre of 1914, where striking miners at a Rockefeller-owned mine were killed by the Colorado National Guard, haunted him. He spent the rest of his life trying to redeem the family name through philanthropy. His projects included Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, built during the Great Depression, creating 75,000 jobs, donating the land for the United Nations headquarters, restoring colonial Williamsburg, building the Museum of Modern Art with his wife, Abby. 4. The next generation, 5 brothers, and a missing heir. John D. Rockefeller Jr. and Abby Aldrich Rockefeller had 6 children, 1 daughter, and 5 sons. The sons became legends in their own right. The 5 brothers, John D. Rockefeller III, 1906 to 1978, focused on Asia, built the Asia Society, helped create Lincoln Center. Nelson Rockefeller, 1908 to 1979, 4-term governor of New York, 3-time presidential candidate, and vice president under Gerald Ford, 1974 to 1977. Lawrence Rockefeller, 1910 to 2004, venture capitalist who invested early in Apple and Intel, also a major environmentalist. Winthrop Rockefeller, 1912 to 1973, moved to Arkansas, became its Republican governor, 1967 to 1971. David Rockefeller, 1915 to 2017, longtime chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, key figure in building the World Trade Center, and the last surviving brother. The missing heir, Michael Rockefeller, 1938 to 1961. This is one of the most enduring mysteries of the Rockefeller family, and it has its own urban legend. Michael, the son of Nelson Rockefeller, was a 23-year-old Harvard graduate on an anthropological expedition to New Guinea in 1961. He was collecting Asmat art, intricate wood carvings from a tribe known for headhunting and, allegedly, cannibalism. On November 19, 1961, his boat overturned off the coast of Dutch New Guinea. A companion, Rene Wassing, could not swim. Michael, deciding he could make it to shore, tied empty fuel cans together as floats and swam for it. He was never seen again. The official explanation, drowning. The currents were strong. He was approximately 10 miles from shore. He likely exhausted himself and drowned. The urban legend, he was killed and eaten by cannibals. The cannibal theory spread almost immediately. Missionaries claimed that villagers in the Asmat region confessed to killing and consuming Michael. The story became cocktail party lore for decades. A 2014 book by journalist Carl Hoffman, Savage Harvest, makes a detailed case that Michael was indeed killed and ceremonially eaten by 3 tribesmen. The truth may never be known. Michael's body has never been found. The Rockefeller family has always maintained the drowning explanation. But the mystery persists, and it adds a dark, gothic flavor to the family's story. 5. The major conspiracy theories. Examined now, let us turn to the urban legends and conspiracy theories that surround the Rockefellers. Theory 1. The Secret Covenant, or the Rockefeller Plan. The claim: John D. Rockefeller wrote a secret covenant detailing how the elite class would control the public through poison, debt, and mind-altering technology. The document allegedly includes plans to poison food, cosmetics, and the air, and to crush them like insects. The truth: there is no evidence that this document was written by any Rockefeller. Fact-checking organizations have traced the text to an anonymous email sent to a financial advice website in 2002. The original submission made no mention of the Rockefeller family. The name was attached later by unknown parties. The modern conspiracy theory was invented in the late 20th century, borrowing from older anti-Semitic forgeries like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It is true that David Rockefeller had extraordinary access to world leaders and supported global institutions like the Trilateral Commission, which he founded. But global networking is not the same as global control. Conspiracy theorists point to WikiLeaks cables showing David Rockefeller arranging discreet asylum for the Shah of Iran's family. But this is normal diplomacy, not proof of a shadow government. Verdict: unsubstantiated, conflates legitimate influence with fictional world domination. Theory 3. The Rockefellers created the coronavirus / are behind chemtrails / control population reduction. The claim: the Rockefeller Foundation, along with the Bill Gates Foundation, deliberately created COVID-19 as part of a plan to reduce the world population to 1 billion people. Similar claims involve chemtrails, poison being sprayed from airplanes, and weather control. The truth: these claims are completely false. The Rockefeller Foundation is a legitimate philanthropic organization that funds public health initiatives, including pandemic preparedness. A 2010 report from the foundation did include a scenario exercise about a global pandemic, but that is what policy researchers do. They plan for possible future risks. There is no evidence that the foundation created or wished for a pandemic. The EU's Disinformation Monitoring Agency has specifically identified the Rockefellers created COVID narrative as Russian propaganda. Verdict: false, a modern disinformation campaign. Theory 4. The Rockefellers secretly funded eugenics. The partial truth. The claim: the Rockefeller Foundation funded the eugenics movement in the early 20th century, including research that influenced Nazi racial policies. The truth: this is partially true, and it is the one conspiracy that has real historical evidence. The Rockefeller Foundation did provide funding to the Eugenics Records Office in the 1920s and 1930s. Eugenics, the idea of improving the human race through selective breeding, was considered mainstream science at the time, supported by many respected academics. The foundation later repudiated this work, but the fact that a major philanthropic institution funded what we now recognize as racist pseudoscience is a genuine stain on the Rockefeller legacy. This is not a conspiracy theory, it is documented history. Verdict: true, but not secret. The foundation has acknowledged this chapter. Theory 5. The Rockefellers control the Federal Reserve / U.S. government. The claim: the Rockefeller family owns the Federal Reserve and appoints its chairs. They have controlled every president since Woodrow Wilson. The truth: the Federal Reserve is a public institution created by Congress in 1913. Its board members are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. No Rockefeller has ever served as Fed chair. Nelson Rockefeller was vice president, but he was appointed, and his power was far from absolute. The Rockefellers have been influential, but so have the Kennedys, the Bushes, and other wealthy families. Influence is not control. Verdict: false, exaggerates influence into ownership. 6. The modern Rockefellers, fighting Exxon over climate change. One of the most fascinating developments in recent years is that the Rockefeller family is now suing the company that made them rich. The backstory: for decades, Exxon descended from Standard Oil. knew that burning fossil fuels caused climate change, even as its public relations campaigns cast doubt on the science. Investigative journalism, funded in part by Rockefeller charities, helped expose this. The campaign, the Rockefeller Family Fund, a charitable organization run by fifth-generation heir Miranda Kaiser, has been funding climate litigation against Exxon for years. The goal is to hold the oil giant accountable for allegedly deceiving investors and the public about climate risks. Exxon executives have accused the Rockefellers of running a politically motivated conspiracy. The family responds that they have a moral obligation. Because they made their fortune from fossil fuels, they must now address the consequences. Miranda Kaiser told reporters, "It would be unconscionable to benefit from something that you then know is harming the world and not do something about it." The irony, the Rockefellers are worth more than $10 billion collectively, according to Forbes. They are using that wealth to fight the very industry that created it. Whatever you think of the merits of the climate cases, this is not the behavior of a secret cabal trying to control the world. It is the behavior of a family divided between those who want to protect the fossil fuel legacy and those who want to atone for it. Seventh, the burden of money. Why secrecy fueled suspicion. The Rockefellers were not innocent victims. They cultivated secrecy. John D. Rockefeller Sr. refused to give interviews. He hired public relations pioneers to shape his image. He sued journalists who wrote critical stories. This secrecy, combined with the family's immense wealth, created a vacuum. Conspiracy theories rushed in to fill it. Historian Ron Chernow notes that the family's tradition of silence and avoidance of unpleasant topics had a fairly major impact on their public perception. Because they would not defend themselves, others did, often in the most extreme terms. The irony is that the Rockefellers today are more transparent than ever. Their foundations publish annual reports. Their family members give interviews. The secrets of the past are largely archival, available to any researcher with a library card. But the legends persist, because the Rockefellers are still rich, still powerful, and still a useful symbol for those who believe the world is run from the shadows. 8. Conclusion, real power, and imagined control. Let me bring this to a close. The Rockefeller family is a real dynasty with a real, complicated legacy. They built a monopoly through ruthless tactics, then gave away billions to universities, hospitals, and the arts. They funded eugenics research, then repudiated it. They kept secrets, then watched as those secrets became monsters in the public imagination. But they do not control the world. They did not write a secret covenant. They did not create the coronavirus. The Illuminati is not real. The New World Order is a slogan, not a shadow government. What the Rockefellers have is what all wealthy, influential families have: access, networking, and the ability to shape public debate through philanthropy. That is real power, but it is not secret power. It is visible, documented, and often controversial. The real lesson of the Rockefellers is not about conspiracies. It is about the burden of wealth. John D. Rockefeller Sr. died a century ago, but his money is still shaping the world. Through the universities he built, the medical research he funded, and the family that continues to debate what to do with his legacy. The next time you hear a claim that the Rockefellers control everything, ask yourself, what evidence supports this? Who benefits from spreading this story? And what is the difference between legitimate influence and imaginary control? Most often, the answer will reveal more about the storyteller than about the Rockefellers. Thank you for listening to this overview of the secrets of the Rockefeller family. Remember, the most powerful conspiracies are rarely the ones you see in YouTube videos. They are the ones you never think to question. Good night. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.